What's up, y'all? It's Elle, and it's the Medic View. I know I've been gone on my summer hiatus, which I do every summer. It gives my creative juices to flow. You guys aren't online anyway in the summertime, so I know I said returning back in October, which I plan to fully return back in October, but I couldn't let White Boy Rick film come and go, and I'm not going to do a review on it. Pardon my Malcolm X look. He's a fellow tourist like me. It's a lot going on right now. Anyway, so when the film initially started, he's riding a car with his dad, and his dad says to him, "Your brain is wired to your balls. All a man needs is a vision." So maybe not what he said verbatim, but I'm thinking to myself, that's deep. Because men think with their balls, not just on a sexual level, but on a level of pride and ego. And their pride and ego is held in their nuts. You know, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I thought that was deep. And I can kind of use that thinking of a lot of different men, a lot of different situations. But moving past that point, his father he sells guns. He sells them illegally, although he has a guns license. Someone gets shot and killed on the east side of Detroit, and it's registered under his father's name. He doesn't want to see his father go to prison for 10 years, so he sells drugs for DPD by way of the FBI at 15 years old. So he starts off by buying crack from the Curry Brothers crack houses, and then he starts to do it on his own. The biggest thing is that he's dealing with some heavy hitters in Detroit. You know, has the needs to protect people like Gil Hill, who is at that time, I think he was a prosecutor or something big in the police department in Detroit. As we know, later on, when I was younger, he ran for like mayor or something. You got Coleman Young, who was the head honcho of Detroit. You know, he could not be touched. He was Mr. Invincible. Highly respected in the city of Detroit. Still to this day, people will say the best mayor we've ever had in Detroit. Johnny Curry is marrying his niece, Kathy, whose father was a big heroin dealer in Detroit, Willie Volson, I think is how you pronounce his name. So a lot of different things he's dealing with doing that. So he stops once he gets shot in the stomach by Nug, because the Currys felt like he may have been an informant because he was listening to some shit about killing some people in a drive-by shooting in a house and killed the kid. So from there, he decides on his own, because he's sick of living poor, that he's going to sell crack by itself. But he has no affiliation at this point with DPD or the FBI. From my understanding, in the movie, house gets raided. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. But with nothing, no fine print. So he was not protected by the FBI. He was still sentenced to life in prison, even though he had given up some big names in the city. I don't think the movie was glorifying his lifestyle. I think the movie was like he got dicked and he got railroaded. But how many black boys get dicked and railroaded trying to protect their family and have a better life without folding? This is the story of their life. This is the story of the hood. This is the story of the ghetto. They just picked the weakest link, which is a white man to me. Although his father at first didn't want him to have anything to do with snitching, you know. But it was like, we gotta do to protect our family. I feel like White Boy Rick being in prison for so long was just that he knew too much shit about too many big people, and far as the government, and that he could really just lay it all out there. Because I never knew that Gil Hill was crooked, but that's before my time. Of course, we always heard those stories about, you know, Coleman Young, you know, putting his hands over the speaker when they were recording his conversations. You know, he knew what was going on with him. They've been trying to get him for years, and they never could. And they thought this would be the way. I mean, you had a drug dealer's wedding at the Manubian Mansion. What the fuck? But he didn't give a fuck. And that's the thing people loved about Coleman Young. He spoke his mind. And he did what the fuck he wanted to do. And it was for the greater good of the city. Some may argue. But back to White Boy Rick. You know, my thing is, black boys get life in prison. How many black people we know went to prison on life for the crack law back in the 80s? Did he get the biggest? I mean, he's been in prison for 30 years. The Curry brothers even got out before him. I remember one of the Currys was in Milan not too long ago. I'd seen him when I was visiting an inmate up there. I just feel like he knew too much information and he could say a lot more. And they knew with getting him released. And also, they knew if he was released any time before last year, he'd be dead. He knew too much information. He had his hands into a lot of different shit, the government being the biggest thing. And that's when the government is the most crooked shit ever. It was okay when he was dealing dope for them, but when he stopped dealing dope for them, it became a problem, because at that point he became a threat. I think that there are a lot the movie could have been depicted a lot more interesting. I don't think it was a boring movie. It was interesting, but I think that it could have been a lot more detailed, or maybe that was as deep as it was gonna get. I feel like at that point he should have just said it all. He should have just put it all out there, you know, all the dirt, all the everything, you know. But he didn't. He put the shit that we kind of already knew as Detroiters. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 7. It was decent. I think that a lot more movies I probably want to see, like Best Friends Crew. I would like to see the story of the Curry brothers. But White Boy Rick, I think, was interesting enough for people to talk about because it was a white boy that was implemented into the streets to sell dope for the Detroit Police Department and got dicked in the end. That's corruption for you. I do think that this is a major film for Matthew McConaughey. It shows him in a different realm, almost as you saw Denzel in Training Day. I think that Matthew McConaughey did an amazing job. The young boy who plays Richie Merritt, who plays White Boy Rick, he had like this Baltimore accent. I want to see from Baltimore, I don't know. But I think he did an amazing job too. I think he has a big career approaching. I think that yeah, it was cool. I enjoyed it. So that's my review. It really wasn't much that we already didn't know. It really wasn't much of an opinion to give besides the fact that he got railroaded into some shit that he trying to protect his family. But niggas been doing this forever, you know. It's unfortunate for him that he called himself thinking he was going to catch a deal when he didn't, and they said fuck you. But that's the government for. They do it all the time to informants, and they put them out here to the wolves and they end up getting killed. This has been going on. So stay on the sidewalk if you ain't meant for the streets. That's all I can say. I'll be back October with some major announcements for the Elmatic View and some great topics. I'm actually going to be doing it. My next story is going to be on Courtney Brown, Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy's drug dealing ass daddy. So yeah, that should be interesting. Thanks for rocking with me. I know I look a fucking mess. I'll be cute soon. All right, you guys have a good one.